This is the Action Movie Guys podcast, bringing you action movie reviews from across the decades, plus box office numbers and insight like never before. And now, your hosts of the Action Movie Guys podcast, Alex and Nate.
Welcome everyone to a brand new episode of the Action Movie Guys podcast, episode 283. We're on the continuing the road of X-Men and the X-Men franchise. We're up to the Days of Futures Past from 2014. I'm your host, Alex Figueroa. My co-host is
Nate from Netflix Reviews.
All right, Nate. I know this. I mean, we always do the how long has it been or all that, but I just want to go straight into the bat. Was this a film when you came out the theater? Did you enjoy this movie?
Yes.
Or you were like, nah, I wasn't too thrilled with it?
No, I enjoyed it. Actually, this was the second movie that I ever reviewed on YouTube when I first launched my first YouTube channel, Netflix Movie Reviews. The first movie I did was The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and this was the second movie I ever reviewed. And I've come a long way. Don't go watch it. It's still on YouTube, but you don't need to watch it. Yeah, I did like this movie. I gave it a good review when I saw it like almost 10 years ago at this point.
Yeah, I seen this movie once, and it was in 2014 in the theater. And I'm not going to lie to everybody. I'm going to be really honest. I did not like this movie coming out the theater. I wasn't, that's not that I didn't like it. I was like, oh, I hated it. It wasn't, just something was off about this movie. It's pretty interesting watching it now that I'm 40. It's like totally different rewatch. Taste. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting when we break this film down.
So I saw this movie then in 2014. I did not rewatch it until the Rogue Cut came out.
I never seen that. Yeah,
which was maybe 2017 or something like that. I watched that on Blu-ray, and that's it. So this was only my third time seeing it, but my second time seeing the original version. So I don't rewatch it much, but I did like it.
Okay. All right, so let's get right to it. All right, so let's start it off first with the financials. Okay, let's see if this movie was a hit amongst the community of fans of comics, right? Yeah. All right, look, the budget was $200 million, and now going with the logic that you hit me with, that it has to be double. So it has to make 400 or more. To
break even. Yeah.
To break even. So it has to hit 400 to break even, and then anything higher than 400 would be successful, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this thing made a worldwide number of $746 million.
All right. Big money. And not only big money, I think this is the highest grossing so far out of all the ones you've done. No, you've never said 700 about any of the X-Men movies.
No.
So this was a juggernaut.
But you got to remember, though, coming off of the First Class, this is the first film that is uniting the original X-Men with the First Class. So I think that had the advantage there also.
Also, Bryan Singer coming back to direct.
Oh, and Bryan
That was
Singer.
The other big thing about
it. That's a thing that I want to tackle on when we're talking about, because he was a big factor in this film. But okay, so with that said, we got the financials out the way. Now let's get right into the critics and the audience. What was the score on that?
Well, you know what? If you were not impressed enough with this being the highest grossing X-Men movie, it is also the highest reviewed X-Men movie. This has a 90% critic score and a 91% audience score. So it is very well received critically. It was a big success for Fox, and overall well liked, apparently. So without our take, people seem to enjoy it quite a bit.
90, bro. Like, I think that is the highest that we scored.
It is. Yeah, I think even X-Men 85 or something was X-Men 2.
80s. Yeah, 85. Yeah, it was 85, 86, I believe. Yeah. Those were the two numbers.
90 and 91.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's nuts. All right, well, I want to get into it because this is really intriguing. All right, so let's get into the lead character. Now, it is Wolverine because he gets to go through time, but I'm going to let you take the reign and I'll follow you what you think it is.
Yeah, so, with these, we have to I feel like we always single out a main guy, but we rate the team because these are team movies. This is not an individual show. This is an ensemble cast. There's a lot of actors, a lot of great actors, and a lot of great characters. So that being said, Wolverine's back. I love to see it. I absolutely love. We've already reviewed all three of Hugh Jackman's solo movies. We reviewed the first three X-Men movies where he was prominent. He is Wolverine to me. On film, he's it, and I think this was after Wolverine and before Logan, and I think it is, as far as the X-Men team movies, his best performance. I think he's great. He absolutely owns it. I love the whole thing of like he can't, he's the one who has to go back in time because he's the only one that could survive it. Pretty much physically. So he doesn't even he's reluctant. He's like, ugh. And even when he's back there, he's like, listen, I don't know what to tell you, but you need to help me, but I don't really, I love that about him. He's not He's a little unsure about certain things. That's how you develop a character, right? He's obviously a physical beast. He can fight, he can kill, and he is tough. But when you add in that layer of like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to accomplish this mission. And then the scene where like he starts getting the memory and he starts freaking out and it causes everything to go to hell. Loved it. Now, that being said, rating the ensemble, they're still. Michael Fassbender is still the best Magneto on screen, period. I did like, though, seeing McKellen so you could see the difference between their two selves. I don't know if you'll agree, but it does somehow feel like Ian McKellen is the older version of the Michael Fassbender Magneto in this movie. Like, I could believe it when I'm watching it. I don't feel the same way necessarily about Professor Xavier, to be honest. And I like McAvoy, don't get me wrong. But even when he's having that conversation with himself, it doesn't always seem like they're the same guy. Whereas if Magneto talked to Magneto, I would feel like that's the guy, that is him older. You know what I mean? So it's not a knock. I give it a 5. I think the cast is great. Mystique is still a main player, but is a little bit backseated in certain elements. She's just more integral to the story, which we'll get to in storyline. But yeah, I love the cast. I love all the characters. I enjoyed watching them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Wolverine was amazing in this one. And it's crazy because like even when I was watching it and I was just like, holy hell, like the scene that he wakes up in the 70s and this dude has his shirt off.
Oh, shredded.
Like, yo, do this.
Lettuce, bro.
Like, yeah, I thought I could clean my shirt off this dude's abs because this dude, he was ripped. And I was like, wow, that dude is a beast.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to the ensemble, I got to say, for two decade type characters, I mean, even actors come together to form this movie, it is fantastic. I don't know. I never seen a movie that the older meets the younger. And I do agree with you on it in terms of Magneto. I think with Ian McShane and Michael Fassbender, what I liked about those characters is that Michael Fassbender was dressing up like Ian McKellen's with the crooked hat, with the same tuxedo. Like he had the same, like, I love that they did that. Like you go, okay, this is that Magneto. So like people don't complain going, oh, this is a different version of him. It's like, no. This is this guy in a younger version. I loved it. The only thing with Professor X, and I do agree with you, is the fact that they made him into a party animal in the beginning. Yeah. Like they had to change the mannerisms of him because it was like, then it would have been too much the same. Like I liked it. Magneto went too evil. I mean, he went way eviler. I mean, he was more evil in this one than any other the films. I mean, to be like really honest with you, he went
bad guy.
Yeah, he went full-fledged. Like in this one, he was like, wait a minute, this dude came from the future. Like I'm gonna fuck shit up. Like I'm gonna make it even worse. But it was cool. I love Beast.
And he looks way better in this one.
He looked 100 times better. Yeah. I love that him and the Beast from the older were the same. Because I love he's like, don't get this the hard way, furball. But me and you could be best friends. And he punched him in the face.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. He was like, Beast. I love that scene. That scene was like, it made me laugh because I was like, that was so cool. He was just like, man, and then he punched him. And then you saw him in the hallway when he woke up. And he was all giddy. And it reminded me of the younger version because he was so happy to be there. So I was like, okay, that's cool. Storm looked 100 times better in this movie than any other films.
Older. I agree.
She did look way better. Way better. I mean, again, I wanted her with the long hair, but the short hair looked perfect on Halle Berry. I said, great. But they didn't get her in the future. They showed her a little bit, but in a corner, like nothing else.
But a cameo.
Yeah. I think everybody did their due diligence. I thought it was cool. The Jean Grey Scott thing, I was just a little, okay, they brought him back because of the whole debacle of part 3. Sounds like it is what it is. Yeah. But Cyclops looked kind of good with the new visor, though.
The cool Oakley shades. On, bro.
Those joints are
I like these. He got the Bret Hart glasses from the 80s.
He did. It looked really cool. Cyclops looked really cool. I was actually, it's funny. I don't know if you agree, though. When they showed him back in the school and you saw them all there, being the X-Men that we all know, I was kind of giddy. I was like, okay, now let's start the movie now. Like, let's get to the adventure part. But we know what happens. But I agree. In terms of main characters and everything, I liked it a lot. And Quicksilver, we didn't even talk about him. Quicksilver is actually really cool in this movie. I'm not too big with the Quicksilver because he reminds me of the Flash. But honestly, honestly, I think they did a great job with his speed running around and everything. I'll let you tackle that because I know you didn't tackle on Quicksilver.
Yeah, I thought Evan Peters was a good choice for the character. He's the young, he talks fast, he's got that sort of personality for it. I agree. I thought he's not in it much, but he's in it the exact right amount, the perfect amount of that character. And I love that they hint, because in the comics, of course, Magneto is his father, and I love that they hint at it, but they don't explicitly say it. It's like, someone could control metal. My mom knew somebody like that one time. And then he says that, and later, remember, Magneto's looking at the TV, and he's like, oh, shoot, this kid looks familiar to me. Like, he knows he might be the dad, too. I love that they did that. This was at the time when Marvel, Disney had the rights to their real names. Wanda and Pietro, whatever their names are, the twins. But they couldn't call them Scarlet Witch or Quicksilver, remember? So they just used their real names. Whereas here, Fox can use Quicksilver, but they could not use his real name. So they could not do everything they wanted to. But yeah, I thought Evan Peters was great. And his one scene, it was so well executed. The speed, I love the music, by the way, like Time in a Bottle, great song for that. It's not the song you would think of, but it works for the scene. He's like setting them all up, putting the bullets all around. And then when they just get that moment.
The sauce, he tasted the sauce in the
soup
air.
Or whatever, he eats it, And then I love that last moment where in 1 second, everything just goes crazy, and that's what it was in real time. Great job.
Yeah, I thought it was great. And the only thing that I knock is that he looked like Dr. Emmett Brown from Back to the Future.
A little bit.
He looked like
the white long hair.
He did. He looked like Dr. Emmett Brown. Anyway, other than that, look, I give it a 5. You give it a 5. Okay, main villain. Now, again, main villain could go either way. It could go Mystique, the government, or Peter Dinklage's character, which it is, or Magneto.
Or Magneto. Okay.
So I don't know what you want to go with.
For the exact reason you just said, I gave the villain a 4. So, if it was way focused, because they're all great choices. In another universe, just Mystique is the villain that they need to stop, and it's a 5 out of 5 to me because of the motivations, because of the execution of everything. In another universe, just Magneto, they free him, and he immediately turns on them, and he is the main antagonist, and it's a 5 out of 5. And there's another universe where it's Trask, Peter Dinklage, and his hatred of mutants and the whole thing, and it's also a 5. But because it's like all of them, and then sometimes Mystique most of the time she is bad, but then, there's that little part of her that wants to do the right thing, and then Magneto starts off still, which I like. I love anytime him and Xavier are like working together, playing chess, anything. But still, he's not like ultimately bad the whole time. He is by the end. And then Dinklage kind of ends up getting the back seat at a lot of times, even though he is really a main antagonist. And then you could even say the Sentinels are like pretty much a part of that. So I think the villain element's very good. So I did give it a 4. I just think there's too many. And if they picked one and really hit it hard, I probably would have given it a 5.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I gave it a 4. I wasn't too crazy with the design of the Sentinels.
The new ones or the old ones? Or any of them?
The old ones I thought would look better because it reminded me of the cartoon versions. The
new
one,
like what you know.
Yeah, the new one reminded me of that Volsecinator from Thor. What the hell was it?
What was that thing called? I know what you mean. The thing that shoots beams out of its face.
It's the same thing he did. Yeah, it was the same freaking thing. I was like, all right. That design was kind of awful. Whoever thought of that. I mean, they used it later on.
It was like Terminators. Not
yeah, I wasn't sold on the Sentinels, the future versions. I like the older versions. I even liked it when Magneto put the beams in them. I thought they looked way better with the metal in them. Yeah, the villain, Peter Dinklage was cool. You're right. They didn't focus on him as much as they wanted to. I like that they got William Stryker, a young version there, and they did indicate Jason is still in the timeline too, his son that we saw in X-Men 2 with the one green eye, blue eye. I did enjoy that. Mystique, I like Mystique. I don't know. That character's so awesome. Whether it's Jennifer Gardner or my girl Rebecca Romijn, I wish there was a scene both of them came together. Like Professor X, you know what I mean? Or like a side by side of them doing something. I liked it. I was like, man, I like Mystique. Her character was so cool in this film, but you're right. And then Magneto, I mean, this dude is just an evil fuck. I was like, holy hell. I'm like, this dude is no. He was like, wait a minute, Charles has no powers? Oh, I'm going to shoot the bitch. Like,
Where he
just
lifted
like,
up
wait
a whole
minute.
entire Washington Redskins football stadium.
That's
and
what it
moved
was? I thought it was Candlestick Park, the baseball team.
No, they're in D.C. It was the
Oh,
Washington
okay.
Redskins stadium, and he put it around the White House so nobody could get in. That's gangster.
genius. Mad genius. Yeah, I was like, that's crazy. I mean, I like Magneto in this one. I think I prefer, I like how he was in this movie. And that, oh man, let me just tell you something. His suit at the end of the film was badass. And they redid his helmet because his helmet looked way better in this one. They tagged it
It
up.
looked
a
like
bit.
distressed. It was cool.
Yeah, that looked way better than the polished purple and the other one I liked. Yeah, the villains, like I thought the villains was good in this film. I thought it was they were great. They carried the films and stuff, and I love the well, that's more action. So anyway, I give it a 4. All right, let's get into action sequence.
Okay, so I was torn on this one. And ultimately, I ended up where I feel like I end up with most of these X-Men movies, and I gave it a 4. Like, for action, for 5s, it really gotta be just totally crazy. And this is, once again, this is a more of a character-driven story. It is more about these characters than the action. But the action's really good. So I have to give it the next highest score, which is a 4. I love the opening scene of this movie, by the way. I agree with you that I don't like the design of the Sentinels, but I like their abilities, that they can use all these different. Yeah, like you could see Lady Deathstrike, the one part with the fingers, and they could turn into this one and that one, and you're like, oh, that's this one and that's this one. But I love the Iceman scene where he comes like swooping in on where he makes the like, it's almost like he's on a
surfing.
wave. Oh my, it's so sick. Like that is something that they should have been doing. Well, they never really got to do it in any of the other movies. It was so cool to see Iceman do Iceman stuff. You know what I mean? Now, sure, he died. He got his head popped off. But I'm just saying, before that, it was cool. I love that girl who makes the portals, like the way she uses it.
Yeah.
She was sick. Bishop is one of those characters that's like a fan favorite character. Like he's not the biggest name, but I thought he looked cool in this. I loved that he could absorb energy just like his real power. And then it goes into his gun and then he could shoot the gun. Like I thought they nailed that whole opening like action scene with the Sentinels. And then after that, you don't get action again for a while. You know what I mean?
Minute. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the action you do get, it's literally just Mystique doing like martial arts against people for a while until the end where you get Magneto and the Sentinels and all that. So this is not chock full of action. I can't give it a 5, but I do think the action here is great. It's well executed. Those hand-to-hand fights with Mystique, they are well done. So I gave it a 4.
Yeah, I agree. I gave it a 4 too. I enjoyed it for what it was. Wolverine did not have much fighting in this one because he had no adamantium. So he can't
that's
do
true. He
nothing
barely
with
did any fighting.
He did nothing. And then you could see it even at the end when he got mad excited. He let go of the claws and he went, uh-oh. Because he just saw the bones and he's like, oh, I can't do nothing. He literally, he put it right, I remember because he put it right into the Gatling gun. He put it right in between and he couldn't do nothing and it slapped him all over the place. Yeah. So I was just like, oh man, Wolverine kind of sucks. And like in the movie, Wolverine
Action-wise.
is cool. Action-wise, he sucked. It was like, they just took away his powers. It was just like, oh man. That was that. I did like the future where Magneto died and you got to see he walked to Professor X and you got to see him say goodbye. I thought that was really powerful there. I thought that was pretty cool. Storm, I thought was pretty cool in the battle scene. That dude, the Indian war, whatever his name was, and he could see them from distances. I thought that was cool. He was like, they're 10
His name like
miles out.
Warpath or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was Warpath. Like he was a pretty cool character. The beginning was actually pretty cool. I did like the beginning much, but I just did not like the Sentinels. I was just like, oh man, I was like, this looked kind of weird. Kitty Pryde was cool, but wasn't her in the comic the one that does the whole thing? That she goes through time?
Yes. So they did change. They changed certain things from the comic.
Okay.
It's like the essence of that storyline. And if you watch the animated series, it's a 2-parter in that one. So they got the essence, but they just changed what certain characters do. And that one has Cable. This one they couldn't use Cable, I don't think, or they didn't use Cable. So there's certain differences, but.
All right. Yeah, no, the action was like, I agree with you. Iceman was kind of hot though. I thought it would have been better if he had no clothes on, like the
he was just
actual
blue,
Iceman.
like blue ice.
Yeah, blue ice. That's how he was in the comic. It was just straight blue, and I think he had shorts or something. But
again, like a wrestler, like tights.
Yeah, he looked like that. Yeah, and then the ice went over it. So like, if they had him full ice and he's coming around and spinning and doing all, I would have been going, okay, this is actually pretty cool. But yeah, I agree. The beginning, the middle, I mean, the fight in the office, I thought was again Mystique. I like her fight. I thought her fighting was way better than Rebecca Romijn.
Oh yeah.
But Jennifer Lawrence, you could see she was more, what's it called? Like flexible in terms of the fighting. Like when she had the dude with the leg up and she's like looking through the phone, I was like, oh, geez. I was like, damn. And then she slapped him around. Like, I like that whole scene. Professor X versus, the Magneto versus Beast.
Magneto
I thought that
and
was
Beast?
pretty cool.
Yeah,
I thought that was
fun.
really cool. Like, Beast got a little throw down too. So I was like, that's pretty cool. I thought, how they screwed up that whole thing. But yeah, I thought that was cool. So anyway, I give it a 4. You gave it a 4. I want to see where you go with this storyline.
Favorino, baby. This is the strength of this movie. I absolutely love the idea of this movie. Now, it is, it's not really time travel, that's what I like about it. It's not your traditional time travel movie because Kitty Pryde sends his consciousness of current time back into his old body. So it's not like where they come up with some concoction machine and shoot him back in time. And it's not that. He's never going to run into his young self. He just literally is back in his young self with his current mind. I think that's a great idea to do it. It's an easy way to follow. You know what I mean? And I love that they go back and forth. Like they show what's happening in the future and what happens there affects the past and vice versa. When he has that episode and he freaking claws Kitty Pryde in the side and it's like, oh my gosh, this is not going well, in the future. So I love the balance that they did there. And again, even though it affects the villain category for what we do, I think they did have at least the villains were good. Like I understood all their motivations and I thought they were all good. I see what Trask was doing, the government, he's a little guy. That picture in his office is hilarious where he has that painting of him like giving that kid a metal leg or whatever. So funny. He looks at himself as this savior and probably has some sort of complex because he's a little person. You know what I mean? It all works. The Sentinel idea is cool. Magneto is a boss in this movie once again. I understand what Mystique is doing. So, I just really liked the one. I'm going to save it for overall because, no, I'll say it now. I still give it a 5. But the one thing I didn't like as far as the story goes is the fact that they killed off all the people from First Class and they just said she has the pictures of their dead bodies Azazel and
that was
Angel,
Firefly?
Angel,
Banshee?
Azazel.
It was Banshee.
Banshee's dead. Yeah, they're all dead.
Scott's brother?
No, he's alive. Remember, he's in the military. He was in the tent at the beginning.
Okay.
Havoc.
Okay.
Havoc lived.
Yeah.
He's the only one though. He's the only one that's in this from the First Class group. They're all and Beast, of course, and Mystique. So I just wish I get why they did that and they got them to use all their powers, but I wish they went more into how did they do that? They just walked up to them and took them. All these other mutants they're not that easy to just take down. So I don't know. Minor gripe, still a 5 for me.
Yeah, okay, so this is where I'm going to take a little dip here.
Okay.
This is where I had a problem with, and even watching it now, this is the problem that I had the original when I went to see it in the theater. Mm-hmm. And that was the story. This story had way too many subplots. Way too many. It was 3 or 4. Because you had Magneto's plot, you got Mystique's plot, you got, what's his name, Peter Dinklage's character's plot, right? Mm-hmm. So that's 3. And then I think that was pretty much it, right? In terms of the story. Yeah. And then William Stryker's, because he gets Wolverine at the end. Yeah. So it wasn't big. Mystique's character. Yeah. So it was 3. It was 3. And I think that's, to me, it was just throwing me off because it was just it was going from one to the other, back to one, back to the other. And it just kept flipping floppily back and forth. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, okay, this is way too much subplot for me. I enjoyed it for what it was. I did enjoy the story. I thought it was really good. I just thought it was way too much weaving in and out between everybody. And it's this guy had a motive, then she had a motive, then this dude had a motive. And it was okay, I kind of understand why Magneto's going to do what he's going to do, which he did warn him, but it was just to me, it was just all, it was just, I guess that's why I wasn't too crazy with it the first time. Sure. Which I'm going to give once I give my overall, it's going to be different from when I first saw it. But yeah, I did, like I said, the storyline was good. To me, it was just way too many subplots. So I gave it a 3. You gave it a 5, your overall.
And by the way, the road cut, for anybody wondering, if you want to know sort of a main difference, when Kitty Pryde gets stabbed by Wolverine, Rogue is there with them. She comes in
and touches
takes Kitty Pryde's powers. It's part 3 didn't happen, pretty much. She absorbs Kitty Pryde's powers, and then she takes over as the one that's sending him back and all that kind of stuff. And then there's some other scenes with her in it.
So why did they take it out? That sounds pretty fun.
I agree. I don't know. Watch the Rogue cut. Maybe you'll like it better. It's only like 15 minutes longer, but that's like they edit her scenes back in. So she's like pretty much not in this movie at all until that last part where you see her. And in that version, she has more parts. I agree. I think they should have left it in. It would give her something to do because she didn't do much in those first 3 movies.
She didn't do jack, bro.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Rogue is a very popular character who got nothing in these movies. So overall, I gave it a 4. It's not a 5 perfect movie, even though I think the story is like a perfect story. I do the execution is what changes it to a 4. You know what I mean? Like obviously, I didn't love that thing with them being killed. Also, I personally, I'm not super crazy about the end of the movie where they brought back like Jean Grey and Cyclops. And I get it. It reset the timeline. You know, they did that so that they could reset the timeline. So that way, I think they knew what movie they were going to make next. And we're like, look, if we reset this, anything we do with the younger cast from now on, we could do whatever we want because we don't have to stick to the original 3 movies. My issue was like First Class and this one barely stuck to those original 3 movies anyway, because Professor X was never friends with Mystique in those first 3 movies. They never mentioned it. And even in this movie, he's like, you know, we grew up together. Patrick Stewart, we were kids. He never said that ever in any of the other movies.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why they felt the need to totally bring back all those people when you weren't really that much beholden to them anyway. That's just me though. You know, it's like I don't love it. It's a happy ending. It's cool to see everybody. I would have preferred whoever died in those first 3 movies stayed dead. Like they didn't need Jean. They didn't need Cyclops. I liked Beast coming down. That's cool. He lived. Rogue still being there. Okay, cool. She's with Bobby. Yeah, I'm fine with all that. But I get why they did it. I just don't agree with it. So that being said, great cast, great acting, great story, real fun action. Visually, I love it. I love the beginning of this movie when they're in the future. It reminded me of Terminator Salvation a little bit when they're in those when those people are walking in those like purple laser things. And this, you could tell Bryan Singer was back because this movie's dark, just like the first 2. You know, like his movies have always been slightly darker than the other ones. Yeah. And this one got some dark stuff in it, and I love it. And a 4. I think it's a great film.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because if I would have did this when I first saw it, I think I would have gave it a 2 or a 3.
Oh, okay.
But I'm giving this a 4. I think this is a great film, and this is why. Bryan Singer. This damn franchise was missing Bryan Singer. Now, Matthew Vaughn did a great job with First Class.
Agreed.
I'm not even taking it away from him because he reimagined the X-Men franchise. So I'm going to give him a lot of kudos and props on that. But Bryan Singer coming back and doing what he did best for the second movie, the second movie to me is the best X-Men movie. And I love that he took that DNA and stapled it into this one. Because it felt like an X-Men movie. And I loved how if he did get help from Matthew Vaughn, how to handle the original characters and all this, the First Class characters, because I thought it was fantastic. I thought everything worked out. The score was really well. I agree with you. To me, it reminded me, it started like with the whole Magneto thing of everyone walking in a concentration camp, like all mopey and all that. Like, I was like, you know what? This is Bryan Singer, because it started exactly people with the human helping the mutants, and they still get killed. So it's like, okay, I like where we were going with this, and I thought it worked. Again, I love the entire cast. I wish we got more movies with them. I'm gonna be honest, and I don't mean together. I mean the older crowd with the older, the younger with
like
the
younger. Like they kept making separate storyline movies, the old X-Men and the young ones.
Yeah,
I think that would be awesome.
It would be pretty cool, and it intertwine somehow.
Yeah.
Like, you know, whatever happened in that movie, they'll reference it when they were younger, or when they did it younger, they reference it when they were older. Like, hey, remember when we did this and whatever? And then they could goof around. But yeah, I liked it. Overall, I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, I gave it a 4. I thought it was a great film. And it looked fantastic in 4K.
Oh, beautiful.
And it sounded great. I want people to understand the X-Men franchise, whoever did the transfer, did a great job on all of them. So far, I didn't see Apocalypse, and we didn't get to Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix yet. So
I bet they look good, though. Honestly,
I bet they look great.
I bet they look great.
From what I remember,
quality notwithstanding, I'm sure they look and sound great.
I think when I remembered Dark Phoenix, I was like, holy crap, this thing looked clear as a mother effer. Like, I remember that one was really clear. From what I remember. And what I did remember was I did enjoy that movie. Dark Phoenix. But anyway, yes. So, 4 total points.
22 out of a 25. Now that we have finished our review, I feel like I can comfortably say this, when I came out of the theater and now, I think this is my second favorite X-Men film. I still rank X2 as as my favorite. I think it's the best. And then this one for me has always been number 2, and then First Class. So I have not seen Apocalypse since the theater, and I have not seen Dark Phoenix since the theater. So we'll see if that changes. But I love this film. I think it is the second best X-Men movie.
You know, it's funny. Like, I gave it a 20. I gave it a 20, a solid 20. If I look at it from here down, I will say X-Men 2 will be my number 1. I gotta say X-Men First Class, my number 2. And then Days of Futures Past.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, the introduction of Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy as those characters, and that scene with all of them in the island, and him getting the bullet in the ass, I was like, come on, you can't take that.
That's honestly a common debate.
Back and forth, yeah.
Yeah, which one is better, First Class or Days of Future Past? I think it's almost unanimous that 2 is the best. But I do know a few people who think this is the best. So, it just depends on who you ask. But it's really those 3 out of the 7 that are always at the top. You never hear anyone say, I love X-Men 1 the best. Even though it's good, it's just not something you hear. And
well, I can see why this one, because this one has the younger guys with the older characters.
And great direction.
And
great
the
score.
Yeah, so, and again, if Wolverine had the adamantium, then that would be a different story.
You're right. I agree.
Yeah, but, I mean, imagine if he... and again, they went back in time. Mm-hmm. And we still haven't seen Scott. Imagine if Scott was in
Cyclops
the 70s.
Is not allowed to.
This dude
have any
is
success.
that one scene though. I felt it. I was like, okay, Hugh Jackman became a way better actor at this time. When he talked to Professor X and he goes, "Do me a favor." Yeah. He was like, "Bring back. You got to find them all."
Yeah, I love that part.
That scene was so awesome. He goes, "You got to get Jean. You got to get Scott.
You gotta come get us."
Find us all.
And I love I love the last line, Professor X, I'll try my best, and he's like, "Your best is good enough." I'll accept it. I was like, look at these guys act. Look at these guys. Yeah. Call up the Academy and let's get them some love. Maybe not that, but they were great. I thought that was a great scene.
That scene, because it was the older Wolverine telling the younger dude, dude, we need you. He goes, where we are in our lives, we need you, Professor.
It's like they flip-flopped. Professor X always been the wise person to Logan, and now Logan had to be the wise person to Professor Xavier. So... great.
Because like you just said, it's because Wolverine, because of the impact that Professor X had on Wolverine, that he's like, bro, I need you in my life when this is all said and done. You need to find us and put us together. And I liked it that he was just like, I and that ending when he So this is where I wanted to ask you before we go end it. When Professor X goes, "Oh, you're back."
Yeah.
This is the question that I have for you. It looked like he was in the room. It looked like he was walking around, but he was not yet snapped back into reality. Mm-hmm. Is that what we will talk? Is that what was going on in that one scene? Because I'm thinking Wolverine was just being a different Wolverine until he woke up and he was just like, "Well, what the hell just happened?" He came back to life.
I think that Professor X is the only one who knew probably because of his powers. You know what I mean? What happened. Because, no one else knew that they actually died in another timeline. Right. No one else knew any of that stuff. And Logan, when he wakes up and he's walking around, he's like, what? Wait a second. When he last was awake, he was laying on that table and he was being sent back and it was the future and it was all bleak. So I think Professor X knew that, and it could have been just a mental type thing where he's like, you're finally, maybe, who knows, 2 days before that, he could have just been walking around in a haze,
That's what I was saying.
Exactly. That's kind of how I looked at it too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was like, wait a minute. I was like, why did he say you're finally back? Because I'm like, the dude was already he was already in the mansion. So I was like, oh, okay. It looked like he was being a different Wolverine. Everyone was like, oh, dude, you're weird or whatever. Yeah. Until he went to Professor X, dude, what happened? And he was like, oh. And I was like, oh, let me.
Because they're all like, why are you acting weird? Why are you being weird?
My favorite part is when he went up to Jean and it looked like he was going to kiss her. Scott was like, yeah.
Still no, was brother. Cool. Still no.
Yeah. I thought he was going to hug him. Like a weird hug. He was like the same old Scott. But anyway, other than that, so those are our total points. All right, Nate, what is coming up next on the podcast?
All right, we are actually wrapping up our sci-fi action month with our final sci-fi action movie, a movie called Serenity from 2005. So that's going to be our next episode. And then next week, we will see, does Bryan Singer still have the magic touch? Because it's his last X-Men movie, a little movie called X-Men Apocalypse. So we will be reviewing that one second to last. And I'll be honest with you, Alex, usually when we do these franchises, by this one, by the fifth, I'm ready to move on.
Yeah.
I can't say that with these. I've liked watching all of them. Even the bad ones are like, this is watchable. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel fatigue of them.
I was gonna hold it off for next episode just to see Apocalypse, to see where I was at in that mind frame.
Yeah.
But as of where we are right now, I mean, we're up to the fourth, right? Fifth. Yeah, we're up to the fifth in the franchise. I agree with you. I want more. Like, I was just like, wait, like, I'm not lying. Like, I literally was like, once Days of Future Past ended, I'm like, all right, are we gonna get more Magneto and James McAvoy and then the other, like...
I'll tell you right now, when we were at the fifth Roger Moore Bond movie, we were already ready to be done with it.
Out.
We were like, this needs to stop. So, little different than our normal pace, where we're like, God, 5, this is too many. Not for X-Men, I don't think.
Well, we did that with Pirates of the Caribbean.
I was done.
I was
ready to be done. I was like, I am
and
finished.
well, not saying it in a bad way. There wasn't as bad. It was just like it was ready to let go. Like,
they're so long. Those movies were so long.
Yes.
These are like 2 hours.
Yeah.
They're all perfectly paced. They're all perfect time. And I almost put in Apocalypse right after, but then I remembered I'll forget. Well, I won't forget, but I don't want to wait a week. So I had to not put it in. But I was ready to go.
I agree with you. I was at the tempted to put it on and go, okay, let's just go right to X-Men again. But I do agree. This is out of the franchises that we did in 2023, X-Men
the least exhausting. That's the way to put it.
And the most fun I had revisiting a franchise. Like,
I agree.
Pirates was fun, but for the first 2 films, and then Roger Moore was cool because I was seeing it you were seeing it for the first time, so I wanted to see your thing.
Or Connery.
And Connery, yeah.
Once he got underwater, I was like, all right, I'm ready to.
You were pretty much tapped out, but I think X-Men I can say for both was the most fun rewatch. And the most like, okay, we could continue going. The stamina's not done yet. All right, Nate, what is coming up on the podcast?
All right, so coming up next week, of course, we got next episode, Serenity, wrapping up our sci-fi action movie month, and we're going to finish that. And then, of course, we have X-Men Apocalypse, Bryan Singer's final X-Men film. We'll see if he still got the Midas touch or if he does not.
Or he touched it too much.
Or he touched it too much. That's a good one. Does he still have the Midas touch, or did he touch it too much? It rhymes. It's pretty good.
That's Goldmember.
Yeah, we could put it on the box. We could just take
song.
it.
That's the song from Goldmember with
right.
Beyonce. So she goes, he got the Midas touch, he touched it too much. He's Goldmember.
Well, we'll just pretend like we came up with it.
Yeah, we came up with it. Yeah, that's right. He touched it too much. Anyway, if you guys want to follow us on our social media accounts, please follow Nate over Instagram at NateFlix Reviews. Check out the podcast with him and his friends called NateFlix Movie Reviews. Anything action movie, guys, head over to Instagram at Geeks and Flicks, or head over to our official website at www.geeksandflicks.com, where we got the entire anthology of the Action Movie Guys podcast from number 1 all the way up to 280 plus episodes for you guys there. Other than that, I'm your host, Alex Figueroa, and my co-host is
Nate from NateFlix Reviews.
Be awesome to each other and geek out.